Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I am going to be playing around with a bunch of the different clubs for Spellbinders December 2023. I am a subscriber for the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the Month, and it came with some Aura Foil. I also just subscribed to the new Stencil of the Month, and I also subscribed just this month for the Stitching Die of the Month. And then I'm also a subscriber for the Embossing Folder of the Month, the 2D version. Or I guess just not the 3D version, because I feel like they're all kind of 3D, if that makes sense. So I'm actually really excited to be joining the influencer team for the Stitching Die next month. The Spellbinders likes to kind of mix up the different clubs, so I'm excited to be new to that one for 2024. I am still able to continue with the clear stamp and die and better press plates, so I'm excited to add this third kit or club to what I'll be showing on the 6th of each month to inspire you. So when you wait for your clubs to come, I'm hoping to bring you some inspiration and get you excited. But since I love almost all the clubs, I wanted to use as many as I could on one project because I love when everything coordinates really well. So jumping in and catching up to where I am here on the video, I'm going to be starting with some stenciling. So this is the stencil of the month, and it's a layering stencil. So there are 4 different layers within this set. And I've die cut some alabaster cardstock with the really large, really cute scalloped rectangle. It's like A2 in size once you have die cut it out. And I'm using the different layers of the stencil to add in this really cute heart floral design. And I did the heart flowers in worn lipstick. I did the leaves in peeled paint, and then the stems with forest moss. And I opted out of doing the 4th layer. I just kind of like them as is. I wanted the leaves to be a little bit softer than to have the lines going through them. So I only used 3 of the 4 layers for my stenciled background. And then I'm going to run it through my platinum machine with the embossing folder of the month, and it just adds this really pretty heart detail. And I love how subtle it is on my background, but yet adds, I think, a lot more to the background. So you can't really see it unless you really look at it, but you know that that texture is there. For my sentiment, I'm going to be doing a partial of, so half of it will be the stitch die of the month, and then the other half will be from the glimmer of the month. So I'm taking the Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Galentine's Day sentiment plate, and I will run that on my Glimmer hot foil system that I keep just off camera. And then there's a coordinating die that will cut both of those sentiments out at the same time, which is nice. And I'm going to use the Aura foil that comes with my Glimmer kit of the month. Sometimes the foils can be different. I think it just depends on how many subscribers they have. So I received the Aura one. So then I die cut the Love Sentiment out of some Dahlia cardstock, also from Spellbinders. And by the time I was done die cutting and poking out the little holes in my die cut for the love, my Glimmer hot foil machine was warmed up, and I was able to run my sentiment and then die cut it out. And I'm just going to use the Happy Valentine's Day strip. So for the stitching, I'm going to be using what looks like, to me, like the most rose gold or kind of champagne color from the DMC Essentials Metallic thread bundle from Spellbinders. You don't have to buy the thread through Spellbinders, of course. You can use any thread that you have on hand, but I wanted to get what Spellbinders offered, so that way when I, create projects for you, for inspiration, you have a place where you can get them easily along with the stitched dies themselves. So I'm doing a back stitch. I have a long piece of thread here because I'm going to use it for all 4 letters, but I start at the 2nd hole and then I stitch backwards to the 1st hole, and then I come up from the bottom through the 3rd and then into the 2nd hole. So if you don't know what a back stitch is and you'd like to see me do stitching in slower motion, or maybe not edit out so much of it, just let me know in the comments. But hopefully you can easily look up what a backstitch is, but please let me know if I could be more helpful. And then to tie off the ends, I'm just trying to run it through some of the stitching to just, squeezing my needle, threading it through some of the back side. And then I'm going to trim off the excess. And I'm also going to grab my clear glue from scrapbook.com. This is their newer clear craft glue, and it's perfect for like mixed media, so like large pieces that you're gluing onto your projects. And I love that it's clear. I mean, most of my glues dry clear, but this is clear, clear. And I'm just using it to help secure those excess threads that I'm trimming off, that they stay knotted and they stay in place. And I'm going to use this same clear craft glue when I actually glue these letters to my project later on in the video. So I finished all the stitching on my letters. Again, I did this off camera just because it would take a long time, and you don't need to see me doing the back stitch for 10 minutes. I brought out the excess of or the die cut negative, I guess, of my love sentiment, so I can kind of make sure I'm placing my sentiment as intended from the die. Obviously, you can add this however you would like. That's the nice thing about the letters being separate, but I wanted to try and follow the design of the die, so I'm just using this negative piece to help me kind of figure out where each of the letters go. I wanted to also bring in the clear stamp and die club of the month. I do have a video from earlier this month where I created a project with just this stamp set and some other supplies from Spellbinders in my stash. But now that I have more of the clubs this month, I wanted to bring back in the stamp set. I opted to not bring in anything from the Better Press plate of the month because I feel like it doesn't quite tie in with the overall vibe, I guess, of the rest of the clubs. So I'm not going to bring in that club kit, but hopefully in the future, if they all coordinate, I'll create a project or two in a video where I'm combining as many of the clubs into one card as possible. So now I've stamped my hearts and my leaves, and I'm using the same inks from earlier. So the hearts are with worn lipstick, and then my leaves are peeled paint. And I did have to stamp them twice because I know stamping with distress inks doesn't always come out the cleanest at first. So using a MISTI is great if you're stamping with distress inks. And then I have their coordinating dies with my repositionable tape that I will run them through my die cut machine. So I'm going to go ahead and poke all of these out, and I'm going to start trying to figure out the overall layout of my card. When I knew I wanted to add in these additional shapes, I thought they matched pretty well with the stencil, and they're not exactly the same, but they still have the same kind of vibe, like the funky hearts. They're not all symmetrical. And then my leaves, I wanted them to kind of pop out from the sentiment. It's actually pretty similar to how I did my other love card earlier this month. So I just wanted them to accent my love die cut. So I have here a dry run, a placement of how I think I want my card to look, and then I'm going to just start gluing down each of the pieces. So I'm going to start with adding in my stamped images with my liquid adhesive, and then I'm going to, like I said earlier, glue down my stitched die love sentiment with my clear craft glue from scrapbook.com because I really want that secure hold behind my love sentiment, because the paper itself doesn't actually really touch my background. There's so much thread because it is a back stitch on the back side of the die that I need that mixed media kind of adhesion to make sure that those letters stay in place. So I think I could have done this just fine with my regular white liquid glue, but I wanted to make sure it stuck down and that it was really going to stay in place. So that's why I used this clear glue instead. And once I get all 4 of those letters glued down and I've tucked in my branches that I've stamped, I will use clear blocks to help put on some weight onto my stitched sentiment so I know that that glue is going to dry and that those letters are not going to move. So here I am finishing up adding in my love sentiment, and I'm going to add those clear blocks, and I'm going to use some foam adhesive to add my Happy Valentine's Day strip. There is a little bit of dimension from my love sentiment, again, because I'm not gluing the paper directly to the card. There's some of that thread kind of in the way. So I'm just going to use some foam adhesive to glue down the sentiment strip. There's also a lot of texture from embossing my scalloped A2 background. So having that, sentiment popped up just kind of adds to the overall feel of the card. Now you could definitely just glue everything down with liquid adhesive, and you don't need to do any stitching if you don't want to with this die. I still think it looks pretty cool on its own, and that would create more of a flat card that you could mail without any extra postage or a special envelope. But I love having dimension on my cards, so I will definitely always add foam adhesive to my projects. So that's going to finish off the overall look of the card. I will still add some pops of color at the end, but I want to get this card front onto a card base. So I'm going to trim and score my card base just like I do with most of my cards. I'm doing an A2 top fold. So I trim down to 4¼ by 11, and then I score at 5½. So that will give me my A2 card base, and then I'm going to grab that scallop die again. And I'm going to do my best to get it perfectly centered. I probably could have done this a little wider and not had to worry about it getting it centered, but I do my best, and I'm going to die cut it so there is still some fold left. You can see here that the top scallops look like they're cut off, and that's because that's where my card crease or my card fold is. So that will give me a shaped card base, and I can glue that directly behind this A2 card front that I've made. So again, because there's lots of texture due to the embossing folder, I'm just going to use liquid adhesive to glue this down. I kind of didn't think about how I didn't need glue at the very top of my card because there's a little bit of excess that hangs off, so I'm just using my finger to pick up that glue. No big deal. And really trying to press firm and make sure that that is secure and adhered to my card front. So for my final little touches, I'm grabbing some pops of color. This is the Champagne Glitter from scrapbook.com. And I add, I think, about 5 pops of color around my card. I like things in odd numbers. So maybe I do 7. I don't remember, but I definitely like to stick to odd numbers when I add my pops of color. And then I tap on the inside to kind of dome them out. I like an enamel dot look for my pops of color rather than a Hershey Kiss look. But here is a close-up of my final Valentine's Day card using lots of different clubs from Spellbinders. I'd love to know which of the different clubs from December 2023 is your favorite, so let me know in the comments. And if you're excited that there is now a stencil kit, because I am super excited. But I hope you enjoyed today's inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!